This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Unfinished Business, Part 14. And yes, I'm in the same pajamas because I recorded the last few episodes back to back. Mind your business and get into the business of these characters, okay? When we left off, Angela had arrived at the hospital to pick up Q because he's being released. While she showed up with everything that he actually needed to be released, she discovered that little Miss Veronica had been by to visit him and dropped off a garment bag full of designer threads. Q took that opportunity to tell Angela all about his recent history with Veronica, and he didn't spare a detail. When he was done, she asked him whether they were done with each other. And his answer was, "Love, we were done before we ever got started for real." Angela said, "Look, no matter what your response is, you are going home with me, and I'm going to take excellent care of you. But I need to know, am I even your type?" Q said, "What kind of question is that? Of course you are. You love God, you love your family and your friends. You're good to people, no matter who they are or where they come from. You're not an envious or jealous person. You're not spiteful or vengeful. You're honest, and you have a big, generous heart. What else could a man ask for?" Angela said, "Well, for starters, I'm not light skinned and a size 2. I have 2 kids, and I'm not checking for no designer brands." Q said, "And I love that." Angela said, "But seriously, if you didn't already know me and the type of woman that I am, would I be the type of woman that you would pick out of a crowd of beautiful women? Please, just tell me the truth. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. But I need to know so that when things like this," and she pointed at the garment bag, "happen, I have the information I need to reassure myself." Q said, when Angela leaned down, he kissed her passionately, and then he pulled her down next to him on the bed. He asked her, "Do you remember the first time we met?" Angela had to think about it for a second because the first time they met, she wasn't checking for Q. She was all caught up in the mess with Marcus and Jessica. Then she said, "Yes, in LJ's office." Q said, "Right. And do you remember how LJ responded when I said your name?" Angela laughed and said, "LJ is crazy and super protective of me. Plus, he was worried." Q interrupted her and said, "Love, you're going to have to do a better job of reading the room. You got to pay attention to what's happening around you. Don't just focus on what people say, focus on what they do and how they move. No one, not LJ, not Regina, or anybody else in this world, was worried about my previous experiences and me making a mistake and putting you in jeopardy or me just randomly falling for you because you were a client. That wasn't it. They were worried that the chemistry between you and I would be undeniable for me. And then if something happened to you, I would have been undone. They were worried because they know how fabulous you are. And they knew that if I ever got a hold of you, I would never let you go. That's way deeper than looks, love. And that is what they were trying to protect. Now, the first time I laid eyes on you, I thought to myself, whose beautiful brown baby doll is this? And why would he let her carry all this fine out of the house unprotected? You weren't fat then, and you certainly aren't fat now. I see you've been putting in some work, and all I see is that waist got smaller, making that booty more pronounced. Don't overdo it, love. I like a little cushion when I'm pushing." Then that man licked his lips. Ooh, child. Then he said, "If you check my file, you'll see that I've dated all kind of women. Light, dark, thin, thick. What drew me to them wasn't what I could see on the outside. And what kept me with them was what God placed on the inside. That's why I'm not with them no more." Angela said, "But you bought Veronica designer on the first date." Q said, "I bought her what she values. And she knows, just like I told you, when you were getting a list together to get the things that I needed for my release, that I have a personal shopper. You declined to use the personal shopper, and that was fine with me." Angela said, But Veronica brought you designer, and I brought you some regular stuff from Target. She brought you Prada, and I brought Deerform slippers. Then she covered her face in embarrassment. Q pulled her hands down and pulled her closer to him and said, "And I'm gonna proudly wear what you brought me until my mother can bring me my Versace slides from the house." Then he said, "No, seriously, you were super thoughtful. Just look at the shirt you got. She got me an Armani polo, but I can't even lift my arms over my head. So how was I going to put it on?" Yes, I like nice things. I always have. And I love to see a woman well dressed, smelling good. But I'd rather see my woman dressed in a smile, heart full of love, and comfortable in her own skin. Please don't ever let how another woman move affect you or what we got going on. I'm not checking for Veronica or anybody else. For the first time, Angela said. Then she leaned over and took Q's breath away. Q said, "They don't sell that at Armani." After Angela got Q settled at the estate where she'd worked with Miss Brenda, Regina, the Queen Mother, and Andy to get all of Q's creature comforts from the house in Fort Worth to the guest house and fully stocked it with everything that he would need for his in home nursing and in home physical therapy, Angela held up the garment bag and said, "I'm going to return this if you don't mind." She was a little nervous because she didn't want Q to think that she was jealous or being territorial, but she was pleasantly surprised when he said, "Do you, baby? 'Cause I wish a nigga would play in my face." Angela said, "I'm glad to hear it. By the way, you need to give LJ a call. He called me this morning and told me to have you call him once you were here. Is there anything that I can get for you before I go?" Q said, and Angela obliged. When Q called LJ, he found out that Donovan had been admitted and readmitted into the behavioral health facility. Apparently, that morning, Donovan took the rideshare home, got in his car, and showed up at Amora's job. He overheard Regina say that she worked at the city manager's office, and he was ready for a confrontation. But LJ gave Pops Andy the tap, and he was waiting for his son. While Donovan was waiting in the car to catch Amora coming or going, Pops Andy walked up to the car and tapped on the driver's side window. After a lengthy conversation, he was able to convince Donovan to return to the behavioral health facility. And when they arrived and Donovan voluntarily checked himself in, Pops Andy went over to the nurse and handed her an IVC. Thanks to the videos provided by the PI, the Queen Mother, and Pops Andy, were able to get a doctor to sign off on the paperwork necessary to get an IVC. That meant that Donovan would not be able to leave the facility voluntarily until after his treatment was concluded. Q said, "LJ, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for my family. I truly appreciate it." LJ said, "No problem, bro. I got you." Q said, "I know. But tell me, what the hell is going on? Why is Donovan showing up at Amora's job?" LJ said, "Bro, do you trust me?" Q said, "Yeah, I trust you. But this is getting real interesting." LJ said, "Look, this is your family. I'm pretty good at dealing with cases where the lines are crossed between family and friends and business. And I've been handling this like any other case. But I'm well aware that this is real life for you. So if you want an update based on the information that I have right now, I'm more than willing to give it to you. But there's still some pieces to this puzzle that I haven't quite put in place, and I would truly prefer to give you a complete picture. You should be focusing on healing and getting to know Angela better. There is nothing that you need to worry about as it relates to this whole situation with Amora, Donovan, or any of it. There isn't anything that you can do right now anyway. No one's in physical danger. Donovan is safe, and I've taken the liberty to put some folks on Amora as well. So what you want to do, man?" Q said, "I'm going to trust you to tell me what I need to know when I need to know it." LJ said, "Good looks, bro. I'll be back on Sunday, And I promise, no matter what, I'll give you some answers. Q said, all right, cool. The two men hung up, and then LJ walked into the Ritz Carlton, where he had a lunch date with Captain Roderick Arrington. Shortly thereafter, Angela walked into Tracy and Veronica's real estate office. Sis had looked Veronica up online, found out where her office was, and showed up at the door carrying the garment bag. She walked in and asked for Veronica. When the receptionist paged her to the front, she asked Veronica if they could speak in private. But Veronica decided she wanted to put on a show for her receptionist and the other real estate agent in the office. Angela said, "We appreciate your kind gesture, but Q has everything that he needs. And if he needs anything else, I'll be the one to give it to him." Veronica said, "Oh, really? Well, if I wasn't inebriated the night he took me back to his hotel room after he took me to dinner at one of the best restaurants in Dallas, I would have already given him what he needs. And I'd still be giving it to him now." Angela said, "Well, thankfully, one of y'all had some self respect." Veronica said, "I slapped the." Angela said, "Whoa there, Kimosabi. Don't let your mouth write a check that your behind can't cash. Now I'm saved, but I'm not soft. You better stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to. Cause baby, the way I'll turn you in that lace front every which way but loose, I'm not the one and this ain't that." Veronica stopped in her tracks and the receptionist picked up the phone, ready to call 911. Angela said, "You need to stick to the St. James brother who actually wants you and leave the one who's clearly chosen me alone." Veronica said, "That sounds like a challenge, and I love a good challenge. And from the looks of those clothes you rolled out of the bed and threw on, it won't be much of a challenge for me to take your man." Angela chuckled and said, "You clean up well. I'll give you that. The only issue is you don't have the substance required to take anything from me, least of all a man. And if you can take him, you can keep him. But trust, you're going to have more to offer than some designer threads and a wet box." Then she turned her back on Veronica and walked to the door. When she got there, she turned around and said, "Now I'm not fighting over no man, but I don't take kindly to threats, and I don't like for nobody to play with me. And if you know like I know, you'll spend more of your energy developing your character, building a relationship with God, and managing your legal problems." Then she walked out of the door.